Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today, while we still got this SIG P226 Legion that Guns Galore lent us, we wanted to compare the Legion to the Mark 25, which was the prior tactical P226 to get if you wanted a tactical gun. There's a few differences, and we'll go over just the differences. If you're interested in details about either one of these guns, I'm going to put links to our reviews to each gun individually in the description. The Mark 25 is chambered in 9mm. This particular Legion is chambered in 357 SIG, but it's available in 9 and 40 as well. And I'm not going to focus on the caliber difference, I'm just going to focus on what's different between these two guns. That if you were looking to spend $1,000+, do you want to spend a couple hundred more and get the Legion? The MSRP on the P226 Mark 25 is $1141, and the MSRP on the Legion is $1359, so you're $200 some difference. So first let's go ahead and show that they're both unloaded, and go ahead and show you the differences. So we have an unloaded Legion, and we have an unloaded Mark 25. So I'm just going to kind of go right through the differences one by one. We'll start with the cosmetic. The cosmetic difference is you get a Legion logo on the Legion up on the top of the slide, and on the Mark 25 you get an anchor. So both of them have something to make it obvious to somebody standing in the light next to you what exactly it is you've got. A little bit easier to see the anchor from the side though than the Legion logo. The sights are both 3-dot sights. I'll set them up here side by side. The sights are both 3-dot sights. The Mark 25 comes with SIG's regular night sights, and they've got a white ring around the tritium tube, both front and rear, so that they're easy to see during the day and night. And the Legion comes with what they call the X-ray sights. They're both night sights as well, front and rear. The only difference is the rear doesn't have a discernible ring around it, so it does tend to black out during the in the sun and bright days. The front has a very reflective ring around the sight, makes it very easy to see, and then of course at night either sight is equally easy to see. The grips are different on the two guns. Hold on where you can see the grips. The Mark 25 has the SIG plastic grips. They're quite nice grips. They're stippled. They're easy to get a hold of. The Legion comes with G10 grips. It's more of a rubbery feeling material. It's a little bit grippier, and you'll notice that the stippling pattern, both front and rear and sides, is more aggressive on the G10 grips. So the G10 grip is going to be less likely to get slippery if your hands are sweaty or wet or something like that. And we did find that the G10 grips tended to be a little easier to hold on to. Not that this one's difficult to hold on to. And the stippling on the front is more aggressive on the Legion. But the Mark 25 does have stippling as well, but when you feel this one, it feels kind of like smooth sandpaper, so there is a little bit of grip to it, and this is more like a file. Now when I say it's like a file, it doesn't abrade your skin, so you may run my finger back and forth, it's not hurting me, but this definitely catches you more. When you're holding on to it, it's more likely to stay in your hand. The other thing that's different is the front of the slide. You'll see that the front of the Mark 25 is smooth, and there are front serrations on the front of the slide on the Legion to give you that extra grip if you want to do a press check or for whatever reason you wanted to grip the front of the slide. The surface treatments are a little bit different. The Mark 25 is externally it's nitron, which is SIG's proprietary metal treatment, and internally it's phosphate coated. Now the phosphate coated ostensibly protects it from salt water and other hazards, reduces corrosion. What we did find is that on all the wear points the phosphate wore off pretty quick. So that's not too big of a deal because the parts that are touching, the parts that wear, are also the parts you oil. So you're going to have that layer of oil which is going to protect it, and the parts that didn't wear are the parts that you may be less likely to oil. So the phosphate still actually does give you that protection. The Legion has normal internals, but it's physical vapor deposition, or PVD, for the surface treatment. And depending on the material that they've used, they don't tell you because it's proprietary, it can actually be a very hard, strong finish, equal to melanite and any of the other finishes that are out there. One of the differences is it's kind of got a grayish hue, and that is, specific to the Legions versus the more classic, black look that the P226 Mark 25 has. The Beaver Tails are different. The Mark 25 has a short, kind of a truncated beaver tail, and the Legion has a much longer beaver tail, and it's kind of rounded and contoured. The principle behind that is you've got the beaver tail to prevent hammer bite, but at the same time the rounding makes it a little less likely to snag on a holster or your clothing or whatever. Now, having said that, as many rounds as we put through our Mark 25, it has never hammer bitten us. When you get your grip on it, you're way up there, and with the higher bore axis of a SIG, it hammers a half a mile away from your hand. So to get hammer bit by a P226, you have to be trying. It's not going to be something that's likely to occur just because you made a mistake. The triggers on these are similar, but actually quite different. The Mark 25 comes with the standard SIG DASA trigger, and it's actually quite a nice trigger, but it has a fairly long reset. Now, we did modify this Mark 25 and put an SRT trigger in it. That was actually fairly easy to do and rather inexpensive. We've got a video on that I'll put in the descriptions. The Legion comes with the SRT trigger installed. It also has polished trigger components, and it has this Grey Guns P-SAIT trigger, which stands for P-Series Precision Adjustable Intermediate Trigger. Trigger shoe itself is a little bit longer, and up inside the gun there is an adjustment screw you can adjust with a hex wrench to adjust over travel. Now, what we found with this trigger, it does have the short reset, so that it is it's a very nice reset, but it doesn't seem to feel quite the same as the SRT. What we found is this trigger seemed to be a little bit heavier, a little bit longer, and just not quite as sharp as the SRT's regular SIG trigger with the SRT kit installed. So if the trigger is the big reason why you would go one over the other, you might actually find that the P226, and then another $50 to add the SRT trigger, in our opinion, just from our experience shooting the two, actually was a bit better of a trigger. One of the other things that you'll notice is the controls. I'll get them a little bit closer and you can see, here's the slide release on the Mark 25, and this itty bitty little thing is the slide release on the Legion. And the concept behind that, of course, is smaller controls are less likely to snag. Now, when shooting the gun, I did find it was rather difficult to get my thumb on this up over the grip and actually get my thumb on it to release the slide. So I found myself slingshotting this gun. Now, that in and of itself is, everybody's got an opinion of which way they prefer of the slide release or slingshotting. I tend to use the slide release, and I found it was difficult to use this one for that, as well as being slightly difficult to lock the slide back, trying to get my thumb up under there to lock it back. The decockers are also different. This decocker has kind of a pattern on it. It's a little bit smaller. This has just lines drawn across it. It's a little bit bigger. I found both decockers equally easy to use. It didn't really matter. That didn't affect anything at all. The takedown pins are roughly the same, and the mag releases are basically identical. You can see it right there. There's the one here and the one above. They functioned the same. They felt the same. They protruded the same. So really it's just these two controls up near the top that had any amount of difference. Then the last thing that I'll throw out there is some of the things that I'm hearing and reading about the finish on the PVD. And I haven't experienced that myself. This particular one has very low mileage on it, so I haven't had the opportunity to see if there's any holster wear, and likely won't. I'll be returning this to Guns Galore, who was kind enough to lend it to us. But I am seeing a lot of things out there about the finish not holding up well against holster wear and things like that. And we did notice that there's some unevenness. If you look here in the rail slots, and if you look here up at the corner of the trigger guard, and that's a characteristic of PVD. The process itself is rather difficult to get into all places on something, the way the process works. And it's kind of a line of sight thing from the material that's the donor material to the material it's being attached to. It doesn't wrap around like a bath does when you're doing, for example, tenifer or something like that, or electroplating where you're putting something in a bath. So if you're going to use the gun hard, don't take my word on whether the finish is good or not, because this gun, the finish is in good shape, and I'm not going to get an opportunity to put any stress on it. But do a little research. Check out the things you're reading, kind of determine whether or not it's just somebody making noise or if it's actually a legitimate concern with the finish. That would probably be the only thing that would be different between the PVD and a more classic finish that's well proven, like the nitron finish. Beyond that, both of the guns actually have worked well. We did find that this one, being in 357, was a bit snappier. So we found this a little more difficult to shoot and a little bit harder to get back on target quickly. But this gun is available in 9mm, so if I had this in 9mm, it would basically be identical. And I will note that Hammer was actually kind of interested in getting one of these and read some of the things about the PVD, and he's taken it off his list, that those concerns are enough to make him not want the Legion. He's going to stick with his Mark 25, which has actually been quite a good gun. It's a lot of fun to shoot. Either gun should serve you well. If you're really wanting the latest Tacticool gun from SIG, it's the Legion. If you're willing to take last year's Tacticool gun, it's the Mark 25, and either one should do exactly what you want them to do and be an enjoyable gun at the range, as well as a reliable gun for home defense. And inside the waistband carry, probably not pocket, and maybe outside the waistband would even be better for a gun like this. Beyond that, hopefully this was helpful in trying to determine which way you want to go. If you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, visit Guns Galore. Their contact information is in the description, and have a great day. Thank you.